Good evening, and welcome to the Southfield Public Schools Power Hour on the Scene with Dr. Green. I am Daryl Beebe, the Director of Student Support Network and Stakeholder Engagement. And in Southfield Public Schools, POWER stands for Parents on Hand with Engagement and Resources. Once again, we are grateful for our parents, students, educators, board members, community partners, and all of our stakeholders who have come together in Southfield Public Schools through this pandemic. Tonight, you will hear from the Superintendent, Dr. Jennifer Martin Green, and members of her leadership team. As always, we want to hear from the students, we want to hear from our community. So if you have a question, use the question and answer section during each presentation topic. Upon the conclusion of tonight's event, you'll receive a survey that will allow you to ask additional questions if we miss you. Also, depending on the time and the number of questions, we'll have a question and answer at the end of the session on tonight. Once again, first you'll hear from Dr. Green, then I will come back, and Erin Marshall, Student Support Coordinator and Retention Specialist, will serve as our moderator on tonight and assist with questions and answers. Also on tonight, behind the scenes, is our incredible Communications Director, Mrs. Anika Corbett. So, lastly, before I turn it over to the capable hands of Dr. Green, we're going to let you know once again, if you have questions to answer in that question and answer section. So with no further ado, I'm turning it over to Dr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Beebe. Good evening and welcome, class 21, 22, and 23. An amazing time this is, and what an unprecedented time this is. None of us expected to be here on this date and time, particularly dealing with a global pandemic and the uncertainty of our future. However, together we will work through this and we will provide a safe environment for you all to return, to flourish, and to finish out your high school journey. So Ms. Anika, if you would flip to the next screen, which tells us a little bit about how we arrived at this point. Back in, I believe, January, we received our first notification from the Oakland County Health Department relative to a virus that was spreading throughout some of our Asian countries, or some Asian countries. And we did put out notice to our families. However, it wasn't until March that we really understood the gravity of the virus and the rapid spread that was coming to the United States. As a result, in March of 2020, Governor Gretchen Whitmer issued an executive order, which was 2020-35, which required that schools close for the remainder of the year and go online in a hybrid model, and to create a continuity of learning plan for the duration of the school year. Now, what's interesting is the school year is from July 1 through June 30th. So everything that was included in that plan and in that executive order carries us through June 30 of 2020. Later, Gretchen Whitmer, our governor, came back and reissued an executive order 2020-65, which included all items in 2020-35, but added some additional layers relative to that of early childhood and teachers' evaluations and some other things. However, what is important for this conversation is that we must note that both executive orders 2020-35 and 2020-65 explicitly stated that if parents needed to come onto school campuses to get things for their students, that they could. However, implied in those executive orders was that no students could come on campus to retrieve their items and or to get any instructional materials, only parents. Later, our governor came back and recognized that many of you are fully capable of going out and working. Therefore, she issued Executive Order 2020-79, which issued a temporary suspension of youth work permit application requirements. You are still required to get a work permit. However, you're not required to come in person to get those work permits and or have it on colored paper. If you are currently seeking employment and or have potential employment and need that work permit, you can call our main desk at 746-8500. And Miss Gwen will most definitely arrange for you to have an appointment to come in and pick up that documentation from our Office of Talent Management, because we do believe that you are fully capable of getting out and working during this time. So that is how we arrived at where we are today. On April 19th, I believe, the Southfield Public Schools submitted their plan to, it was approved and then expedited to the Department of Treasury, at which time that was approved as well. Therefore, our current continuity of learning plan, which is posted on our district website, will be in effect through June 30th of 2020. Ms. Anika, please advance. I know that the one thing that is definitely on our students is, as we close out this year, how are we going to handle grades? Take off your mute, Mr. Beebe.
Thank you. Great question, Dr. Green. So I know many of you are concerned about grades. And so we wanted to come on tonight and share with you, first of all, that information about your grades is in the District Continuity of Learning Plan. Once again, that can be found directly on our website. And so the state mandated or basically told us that we should operate using pass or incomplete. Once again, it's a pass or an incomplete. And so you have an opportunity to be successful. It gave you a chance to improve your grades through this time. So if you were doing what you're supposed to do, you should have been in a great place to improve where you were. However, if you were not, and if you did not complete your work and do what you were supposed to do, you could receive an incomplete. So you need to understand that if you receive an incomplete at the end of the school year, you'll have up until the first Friday after the start of the school year to make up that incomplete. So you're also understanding that the work that's required, you have all of that work. And so you should be utilizing the summertime to make sure you're getting caught up and to find out what you need. So just make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and we won't have to worry about the incompletes. Also, for some of you, I know that many were interested. You're probably doing well. You've got really good grades and strong grade point average. And so for those students who are interested in maintaining a regular letter grade, you need to follow up with your teachers and let them know by June 1st that you're interested in the letter grade scoring. Okay. And so you're going to follow up with your teachers if you're interested in the letter grades. And then lastly, I know many of you all, we were preparing for, right before all of this happened, we were preparing for the standardized test, the PSAT, the actual SAT in April. And due to COVID, we could not take that. So at this point in time, the state has let us know that they will provide more testing for us, and it will be between September and November. We don't have the actual dates yet, but as soon as we get those dates from the state, we will reach out to you. Okay, so that's the issues with grades. Now, as it relates to closing out the academic year, as Dr. Green touched upon, the Executive Order 2065 that talks about students not coming back into the school. And so we are waiting to hear back from the governor. Probably maybe even by next week, we'll hear from the governor to set up some form of locker clean out, locker distribution in terms of getting your things out of your locker. So we should find out something shortly. And as soon as we, hear that from the governor, we will create a plan to return those materials to you. So once again, be on the lookout. You'll definitely hear from the school. You'll get direction from your principals or the building leaders as it relates to getting your materials and your things out of the schools. Next slide, please.
Before you go on, this is Dr. Green. Ms. Anika, if you could go back a slide. On today, the governor did come on and indicate that weekend gatherings of no more than 10 individuals. And while she did not explicitly state that we can have students on campus, we may be able to provide an opportunity for parents of no into the school and get their students belong now at the close of the the district's academic year. We will have to work on that plan. Again, if you are with your parent, we may be able to afford you, and alone will not be able to come on. Again, we can have no more than 10 people. So why do I reiterate that? If we have parents and they all wish to bring their child, then individuals. Keep in mind the principal being on campus in the student support network team. That also adds there. We have to be very mindful and do this by appointment only. Bring people on campus to return materials and or to get now. I understand my microphone. Forgive me if you can't hear me. We are recording this, and again, we question, but know that you will receive something in writing from principals and relative to when you are afforded to come in and get your belongings. Okay, Ms. Anika, you can move to the next. Mr. Marshall, any questions from our students regarding the items that?
As of now, there are no questions in the Q&A box.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Once again, we do want to reiterate, if you have questions, we'll take them now as it relates to the material that I just discussed regarding grades. Right now, I'm going to go into summer school information. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the question and answer box. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you all a little bit about summer school. Unfortunately, based on the status of COVID-19 and how it's impacted us, summer school, we won't be able to do kind of some of the enrichment things that we've done over the years, and even some of the remediation. Right now, in terms of our focus for summer school, we're looking at it strictly from a credit recovery standpoint. And so once again, if there's a course that you have failed, we're going to look to find ways to help you recover that credit. Right now, we're looking at an online platform that's called Edmentum, but we're also in the process of talking with teachers as well. And so once again, as soon as that is solidified in terms of which way we'll go, we will let you know. But in regards to summer school, once again, we will not have enrichment and remediation. It'll be specifically based on credit recovery, recovering the credits and whatnot that that you have, that if you fail a course and whatnot. And also we will continue to provide through our counselors. There's a number of different summer opportunities that come across our desk and whatnot, and the desk of our counselors. So I recently saw a program on coding that has been being offered. So we'll continue to share those summer programs with you, and some of those other things that you cannot, that you won't be able to access through Southfield Public Schools, but there's some other great programs that are being offered electronically and through different social media and electronic platforms. But at this time, we will give you more information as it relates to summer school, probably within the next week or so.
Thank you, Mr. B. Add that any of the online software that's purchased, the students will still have access to throughout the summer. It's a free online platform, and they will have access to everything that we have purchased. They will have access to. So earlier today, I received an email, put together some things exclusive to Southfield Public Schools.
Awesome.
Okay, we do have a couple questions. This one goes back to Dr. Green when you first spoke. They were just confirming. They said, did you state that the students have to contact teachers in order to receive letter grades? BB, I think you touched on that. That is pass and incomplete, correct?
Yes, if they're looking for letter grades, yes, they need to contact their teachers.
All right. And then the next question is, online courses have been more expensive. I think I touched on that. They are free.
Well, what I stated was kind of free. If they are Edmentum classes and they are recovery based on a student's prior experience, they would have to pay for those classes. If it is a course that they failed due to COVID and they failed during this time explicitly related to this pandemic, the district would consider paying for them to take that class. However, they also have the option of the incomplete. Therefore, they should be able to finish the work throughout the incomplete. Our objective is to hold our students harmless relative to their classes.
Okay. Does the work we do for Google Classroom affect our grade?
Received a passing grade on March 12th when we close the brick and mortar. They will receive a passing grade, that letter grade. That is why it is important that the student, in collaboration with their parent, discuss whether they want that passing grade or the letter grade, which would impact their grade point average. If the student had a very substantial grade, letter grade, then they might opt to receive that letter grade. If they were borderline, then they would receive the passing grade, and or if they were not passing the course and did no work due to COVID, they would request an incomplete.
Thank you. There was another question, but you just answered it in your answer that you just stated. As of now, that is all the questions that we have.
Okay.
Real quick, I just had one question pop up, if you guys don't mind me reading
Okay.
it. School and get their classes for next school grade. So I think they're asking if the school year, because we're on quarantine right now and school's out for the next year, how do they get their schedule? I think is what this question is.
Oh, that's a very good question. That actually portion of the conversation, which is what are our options returning to in the fall of 2020, 2021. So let's go there and begin that conversation. While I never thought there would come a day and time where education would take the back seat to anything, education has now taken a back seat to that of our health and well-being. So we are dependent upon the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control to give us guidance relative to your safety. We will provide for you to be educated no matter how we have to reach you, but your health and safety comes first. So these are the most recent guidelines from the CDC. First and foremost, if you are over the age of 2, you must wear a mask. You must keep your desk 6 feet apart, and they all must be facing the same direction. Now, let me just stop there, because the last 15 years of education focused on collaboration. It focused on you working in teams. We brought you all together. So this goes back at least 15 years in terms of the physical structure of classrooms. The distance on a school bus, 1 child per seat, skipping rows. Well, as of right now, a bus can seat up to 40 to 50 students. And if we're going to put 1 student per seat and skip a row, we would have to purchase 3 times the amount of buses that we currently have, which would devastate our budget as a school district. And not just in Southfield. This would be detrimental to every school district in the state of Michigan. We would have to have students walking in one-way routes in the hallway, similar to what they have in the grocery stores now. We would have to tape the sidewalks and ensure that every student is 6 feet apart. I'm only on bullet 4, and as you can see, this is very overwhelming. We must have physical barriers or screens in the sinks in the bathrooms, and we could only afford you an opportunity to have prepackaged boxes or bagged food instead of cafeteria food. And you must eat in the classrooms and not in the cafeteria. In addition, which is most important, if possible, we'd have to have daily health temperature checks as you entered the buildings each day. That is overwhelming. And by the time we got through all of these obstacles each day, half of the day, as we currently know it, would have elapsed. So we are working on some alternative measures that provide us opportunities to do at least a hybrid model, possibly. We're working on plan A, B, and C. Plan A would be coming back to a physical location where we have all of these guidelines in place. Plan B would be a hybrid model of some in class and some online, and Plan C would be all online. So hopefully we will have this to you very soon. We're not in a hurry or in competition with other school districts. We are more focused on getting this right for our community. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry, I sort of discussed some of this already. So again, the World Health Organization, the Center for Disease Control, the state of Michigan Department of Education, as well as Oakland schools. Advance. Questions, Marshall?
I don't have any new questions relative to that. However, I do have one question that was posed right when you started.
Go ahead.
So it was, when will grades be officially issued? How will a student know if they need to retake a class? And how will notifications regarding credit recovery be issued? So basically when will the grades get out to parents and students? And when will they be able to retake something that they got an incomplete on? I'm assuming they're asking. And just how will they be notified regarding credit recovery and those other issues?
So question regarding grades. The academic school year will end at the same time that it was originally scheduled to end, that being June 12th for the students. So we anticipate the teachers taking the next week to get the grades into the system. So by the third week, or actually that's the fourth week in June, all grades should be available for students. That being said, if a student needs to take another class for credit recovery, they will be able to register by the last week in June and have the remainder of the summer to take that online class.
Thank you. I have a question here. So does everyone go to the next grade?
At this time, everyone will be promoted. There may be some specific criteria for students must adhere to in order to remain in that grade level. For example, high school students are based on credits. They're not based on social. So for a student, they may advance to the 11th grade or to the 10th grade or to the 9th grade even. Well, our ninth graders have a fresh start, but they may be credit deficient in a specific area as required by the Michigan Merit curriculum. So a student may have all of their credits to be a junior, but need an English class or need a specific mathematics class. So those things will be developed in cooperation with their counselors to ensure that they not only have the credit hours, but that they have the right credits and the right classes in order to continue to progress through the system to graduation.
Thank you. Another question. Are you anticipating the first part of the school year to be virtual?
At this time, we are not anticipating the beginning of the year to be ever. We are developing plans that will afford us an opportunity to pivot to a completely virtual platform in the event that we have a second wave of COVID to come through our community. I've said this at several public meetings, and I will continue to reiterate. Per capita, the Southfield community has been the greatest impacted community in the entire state, even with Detroit coming in with large numbers. If you look at per capita, Southfield has been the greatest impacted. So we will continue to monitor the situation. If we need it to be virtual, we will. However, at this time, we are planning for at least a hybrid model. We recognize that our families are now being called back to work. They are dependent on us for some sort of care for their children during the day. So we're working with our child care providers. We are working with our teachers union. We are working with a number of different entities to ensure that we have multiple options in place in the fall. Even our city, we're looking at possibly partnering with the city and the library and the Parks and Recs department to make sure that there are a number of options available. However, whatever options we present to the community, they will be presented with the safety and health and well-being of our families first and foremost.
Thank you. And one more, will all the slides from today's presentation be available for attendees?
I do believe so. That may be an Anika question. Ms. Anika, can we share those? Oh, she's we're working with modalities. We have multiple computers, multiple cell phones. So yes, we will be able to share those with you.
All right. As not all the questions that we have.
Awesome. Let's move on. Oh, is that it?
That is it for tonight.
Entire presentation. Really more about hearing from you and not just us giving information. What things should we take into consideration as we plan for the next year from your perspective? So if you would share some of those things with us, ask some of the questions that we did not address, because we really truly want your voice at the table as we go through this process.
There are no other questions in the Q&A. Oh, I just had a Q&A question come up. One second. I'm seeing questions here about emotional support. BB, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So it's interesting. Before we wrapped up, I definitely wanted to talk about a little bit about the Student Support Network and what we do, and how that even when the school year's ended, our work and the supports that we have, they continue. So right now we're connected directly with Eastern Seals of Michigan, CNS Healthcare, as well as Ascension. And so those companies and healthcare providers work closely with us. And so if you have a young person that is in need, you can reach out to myself or Aaron Marshall directly, and we will make a referral to those providers, and you'll be contacted by them. We can also just basically share the information with you, and you can reach out to Eastern Seals, CNS, or Ascension. And as I stated, what we do, even though the school year is coming to a close, we're 12-month employees, so we're going to be here to take those calls and to support you. I know I saw, somebody made a comment about, how our community's been hit so hard and how we've lost loved ones. And so we know and realize that you all need that emotional support. And we encourage you all to reach out to us. If you have a neighbor who, may have a loved one that was lost, or they're maybe dealing with someone who's sick in their household, let us know, and we'll be able to get them that emotional support that they need, and we can help you in that way. Also, in addition to that, there's some other things that we're doing, and I'll stop there, Aaron. But we'll talk a little bit more about some of the food programs that we're working with, some of the neighboring churches and parishes and synagogues that are working to feed our community. So thanks.
So, Mr. B,
All right.
the piece relative to the emotional support that we have with our partners. Again, they have been simply amazing. I spoke with Ascension Healthcare just yesterday, and we were already in the process of building a healthcare center in Southfield A&T High School to serve all of our community. That was, of course, brought to a halt with the governor's executive orders, but now that that piece has been lifted for construction projects, we are going to begin the construction of that healthcare facility within the next 2 weeks. What that will afford us an opportunity to do is to see students on an appointment basis through Ascension. Now, in the interim, if a student needs medical assistance, they can use the information. I believe it's on page 9 and 10 of our continuity of learning plan. And Ascension will either via telehealth schedule that visit, and or if it requires a face-to-face visit, they will make arrangements for the student to go to one of their other school health-based centers until ours is actually fully constructed and open. But we are moving forward with providing that for our students and our families despite the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. I have a few more. One from Principal Charity Jones wanted to remind everyone and all the students to check their school emails for updates throughout the entire summer. Also here, we have a question. I have to scroll up 1 second.
Mr. Marshall, I believe I saw one that I think is very relevant. If school was virtual, SPS should adopt a variety of ways of teaching because students learn differently. That is absolutely correct. And again, I think it ties in with some of the other concerns relative to access to technology. We have had multiple iterations of distribution of technology. We have provided Chromebooks to our families. We have connected our families with internet services. And as a last resort, we do have some hotspots available by way of one of our partners to ensure that every child has the equipment that they need to be successful. And then we have tutorials for parents, for students, and for staff on how to use the different platforms. We recognize that this is a shift for everyone, and we do build in that learning curve for everyone. So while we're being patient with students and families, we ask that our families be patient with some of our teachers as they are learning new things as well. And we're not going to hold them harmless. We are going to hold them harmless relative to the utilization of technology, because some of us struggle with technology each and every day. So we thank you for that. But we do have those things available if you need them. Again, Aaron Marshall, who's on the call, and Daryl Beebe can make arrangements for you to get those items.
Absolutely. Also, will pass incomplete affect credits? If there's an incomplete class, will you not receive credit for the class?
You will not receive credit until that class is made whole. And as Ms. mentioned earlier, you will have until the first Friday of the new in the fall to make up that work. So until you make up that work, you will not receive credit. And ultimately, that incomplete will turn to a failure if you just neglect to do anything regarding that class.
Thank you. And I also had a question about graduation and prom for next year for our juniors, our rising seniors.
Oh, I wish we could start planning on that.
I know.
This year, prom and graduation. Most recently decided that we were not having a traditional prom for this class. However, we are hopeful that by next spring, there will be a tested and proven vaccine, and that we are able to continue with those traditions. How it's just too premature to say, and we would be negligent in making that statement without the guidance from the health officials.
Okay. Someone asked, how will you know if the work is incomplete?
Well, we are monitoring those students that are logging on to system. We have tried to reach out to every child in our community, not just about the academic work, but to ensure that they are all doing well and to see if they need any support from us. So if we've not been able to reach a student, and or if we've heard from the family or the student and we know that there are some extenuating circumstances that require an incomplete, then we will process that accordingly. However, we have really focused our attention on ensuring that we've connected with the majority, if not all, of our students. And that's how we will make a determination.
Okay, and another question they asked, any special considerations to discuss for our current juniors finishing up the school year and getting ready to start applying for college?
Fortunately, we've had a number of conversations with secondary partners, and many of them are waiving SAT requirement for next year. However, there are a number of them that still require that SAT requirement. So we are strongly encouraging our students to continue to work on Khan Academy regarding the SAT prep. We are also looking at possibly doing some waivers for the students for their college applications. We have a very strong partnership with all 15 universities in the state of Michigan. We are partnering with some of the HBCUs and some of the other universities in the Big Ten. So we will continue to keep you updated as they are making decisions alongside the K-12 environment as we go through this process. Some of the universities have stated that they are going online in the fall. Others have opted to do a hybrid, and then some have stated that they were going to open face-to-face. I know Lake Superior State University, which is in the UP of Michigan, stated that they were going to have students on campus in the fall. So we are working in tandem with our post-secondary institutions and doing what's best for our children as they transition to the next level.
Thank you very much. I have a new question in the chat. Let me see here. Someone asked, do we have to join our teachers' live streams for a grade?
It is preferred that you check in with your synchronous learning. There are two different platforms. Synchronous is when you're teacher, and asynchronous learning is when you are watching the videos and or doing the assignments based on what they've already posted. So we do prefer that you log in during your teacher's chats when possible, so that first and foremost, we know that you're okay.
Thank you. As of now, I do not see any new questions. I do want to share with everyone tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Southwood A&T in the parking lot. We have a fresh produce distribution. We started last Friday, and we'll have another 5 Fridays, including tomorrow, where we'll be able to hand off fresh produce. It's really excellent. Everything is fresh. Onions, potatoes, carrots, strawberries, a head of cabbage. I think I missed a bag of apples. And it's really, really good. And
that was last week, Mr. Marshall. I heard this week we were having cherry thing. All I know is it's always
right. Yeah. And it's the holiday weekend, so I'm sure everyone could use it. Please tell your surrounding members of the community to please come out and grab a box of fresh produce. And we love to see you tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Southwood A&T.
And for clarification, do we have to follow our receive a text that said absolutely yes, you should, and the guidelines are in our continuity learning plan, which is on our district webpage. So please take a look at that. I'm so thankful for my team that they keep me out of trouble when I put my foot in my mouth. So make sure that they look at that. The other thing regarding the produce distribution on tomorrow, you do not have to be a student of the Southfield Public Schools or live in the Southfield community. We have approximately 1,200 boxes that we give out every year. Therefore, every week. So please make sure that you are there on tomorrow to receive that.
I have one more another question. When will we know what our child's March 12th grades are to determine whether or not we will decide on pass, fail, or letter grades?
You should be able to go into the parent portal of my. You should be able to see that effective immediately.
Okay. I think that is all the questions that we have, right?
Yes, it is being recorded. Yes, we will post it on our YouTube. Make sure that we get the entire presentation out to you all. Thank you all. We miss you so much, and please be safe.
Yes, thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
All right, have a good evening. Yep, thank you all so much on behalf of the Student Support Network. Be safe.
Good night.
Good night.